It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, January 6th. And this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this fabulous Friday on the first week of the new year 2023? We got current news from around the world, the word study about the Wednesday message, and of course, let's testify with Thule from Australia. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? Yes, it is Friday. The weekend has finally come. And yes, it's the first Friday of 2023. Sorry. I'm sure all of you are going to enjoy this weekend. I'm going to enjoy it too. I'm looking forward to a new Sunday message. But this week's, man, this first Sunday message and the Wednesday was crazy. And I know that we're going to go over the Wednesday message. We're going to go over both messages. And I'm sure that all of you only heard one of them. But lucky for me over here in Malaysia, there were two messages sent by Sunstream. And the instruction was to only preach the second one. However, the translation for the second one was late. So I heard the first one on Wednesday message, and then I heard the second one for Thursday pre-dawn, and it was so good. The one that you guys missed was the first one. For me, that was powerful. I was like, wow, and it really, really inspired me to go preach again, right? So I'm just like, yeah, we'll get into that one too. And I'm sure all of you guys heard the second one, so for sure I'll do a bigger analysis on the first message that most of you guys did not hear. So it's going to be quite wild and amazing and just inspiring. For me, it was really, really inspiring. A lot of it's similar to what we heard on Sunday, but this ending point was just awesome. It was really, really good. So we'll get into that one. But super grateful and thankful for all of you guys joining us here on the Morning Star Drive on this morning. So let's get things kicked off together this awesome weekend. So everyone, let's start off by liking. Click that like button right now, whether you're on SoundCloud or YouTube. Just click that like button. And then comment. Right? Comment anything about today's podcast you want to listen to. There's some things to comment about too that you guys are going to be like, oh, I was a little bit shocked by this, but I want you guys to definitely comment on something or comment on someone else's comment, because there is one I need you to do. Paula, she's the one. She actually wrote one, and she's asking about collagen. Okay, so if anyone has any good brands or good collagen to recommend to her, go ahead, put that on her comment. She's asking about collagen. I don't know much about collagen because I don't use collagen, even though I probably should, right? But if you guys have anything like that, so you can comment on other people's comments too, or you could just like the comment. Even liking the comment is fine too if you really like the comment that someone made, all right? So if anything else, let's just build this community. It only takes, 2 or 3 minutes to go into the comment section to write a comment, or even just like someone's comment. It will take less than 30 seconds, right? So let's build this community and let other people know that you are listening and you like the comments that they're saying too, right? For me, it's my last weekend before my parents come. They come on Wednesday morning, early, it's going to be not earlier than pre-dawn. It'll be 12:30 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday. So going to pick them up, take them to the Airbnb and just sleep for a bit. Then take them out to this nice restaurant that I really like to go to, and then go to the Batu Caves. And then after that, maybe get a massage, since, they're probably going to be jet lagged, get them a nice massage, and probably head back home and relax at home and stuff like that. They can swim or do whatever they want. So it's going to be a super relaxed and happy first day. And then on the 12th, we have another free day. Probably take them to Petronas Towers and the Pavilion. Just kind of walk around, enjoy our time eating and having a good time over there in downtown KLCC. And then, of course, the next morning we're leaving to Vietnam. So I'm super excited about that. We need time to pack our bags and stuff like that too. So that's kind of going to be my schedule for those 2 days, because the third day we're going to be going to the airport pretty early anyways. So that's, I'm excited about this. I still need to come up with another design plan for Vietnam trip. And, there's already a bunch of places that I want them to go to, and I can't go to all of them with them, mainly because I am, I'm just going to tell you guys this. I told them already, I have to do my podcast in the morning. I'm going to do my podcast in the morning, so I'll meet them for lunchtime. So every day, when it's Sunday to Thursday, I'm going to be doing my podcast. So, I'm going to try to do some audio podcasts also, since you guys can get a scenic view of what's happening over there around, in the different countries that I'm at. And I think you guys will really, really enjoy that too. All right. So, so let's get into the poll answer. The poll we had, right? With the 3 things to be successful in life. Since we've talked about 3 things like mentality, skill, and time. And which one of these 3? All 3 are important. All 3 of them are important. But which one is the most important one? And we've got a lot of different answers out there. But the overwhelming majority, like we're talking 81 to 85%, are talking about mentality, and then skill and time are tied at 8% each, right? So let's get the answer what Sunseem said about it, all right? And the way you want to look at it is, what is the benefit of having this, of having that, of the 3, what's the benefit of it and how do you gain it, right? So if you start off with the first one, like mentality, what's the benefit? Benefit is you overcome the most difficult times. It pushes you through tribulations and you do things until the end. And that's a great, that's awesome, right? That's why I think most people picked 81 to 85% actually picked that one, okay? How do you gain it? Well, how do we gain mentality? Easy. We gain it through learning. We gain it through the word. We gain it through education. We gain it through learning. We gain it through experience, right? And when that's why we have so much, like in Korean, is 정신교육, which means mentality education. And this is something that's super big in Providence. This is how we gain it. We put our time in and we listen to the word. And we get inspired by the word, we put into action, and this is how we gain more and more mentality, right? We train ourselves through education and learning, right? So there's number 1. And it's very, very important, obviously, because without it, what's going to happen? You're going to fall and you're going to crumble during the difficult times. The second one is skill, right? So skill is, what's the benefit of skill? The benefit of skill is when you gain skill, you're able to do things more efficiently using less effort, right? And I think that's something that all of us really want is, we want to be able to put in less effort but get more results, or put in the same amount of effort as before but get 100 times what we had in the past, right? So I think that's the thing when you look at the world too. Is it all just about working hard and having a great mentality? And the answer is no, it's not just about a great mentality. Many people work hard, just as hard as the rich people in the world, but why do the rich get richer and make so much more money? Is because they have skill. That skill combined with mentality allows you to be way more efficient and get more things done with less energy, all right? And how do you gain skill? Gaining skill is the same thing. You need to learn. You need experience. You got to try it out. You got to practice it, right? And that's where skill comes in. You're learning it, okay? So you're saying, okay, so these are the benefits of skill and mentality, and both of them are gained pretty much in a similar way of learning, getting education, putting it into action, right? And that's how those are the 2 things here. Now, the third one is time. Now, what is time? Time is something that all of us have, right? We all have the same amount of time. What's the benefit of time? Well, the more time you have, the more you can learn, the more you're able to do things, right? And time is such a valuable commodity. And if we had all the time in the world, then we can get so many things done, right? Now, how do you gain time? Now, I'm not going to talk about using time better. I'm talking about literally gaining time. And the answer is you can never gain more time. Yes, you can use time better, but everyone's using the same amount of time, and no one can say one person's use of time is better than the other. For instance, if someone is dying and they need to sleep, it's better for them to sleep, and that's the best use of time for them, right? So for that person, it's all different from person to person. However, gaining time is impossible. Everyone will always have the same amount of time. Everyone is going to have an end point too. And this is why the answer is time. Sanseep says the most important of all these is time. If you don't have time, it doesn't matter about your mentality. It doesn't matter about your skill. Without time, you can't gain any of them. To gain mentality, to gain skill, you need time to gain them. You need to practice. You need to learn. You need to be educated. But without time, nothing happens. But the most important thing is time is limited, and every second that goes by, every minute, every hour, every month and year, you can never get that back. You can never gain it back. Right? And this is why the reason why time is the most important one is because everything is leading towards time. Now, what does that mean? So, first step, and the reason why we have so much education on mentality is the first step, right? But why do we need mentality? When you have mentality, you don't crumble. When you have mentality, you can overcome the difficult times. And when you overcome the difficult times, what happens is you're supposed to use that mentality to do what? Not to make the same mistakes over and over again, but to gain skill. That mentality is there. You learn from your mistakes and you gain from the mistakes, right? And after you gain from the mistakes, what happens? You gain more and more skill, so you need to. So your mentality allows you to gain more and more skill by going through bad times, by learning, and by sitting down and gaining education. And you have that mentality. And though times are difficult, you're still going to push through and gain more skill. Now, why is skill important? Why? Because when you have the skill, you are actually going to use less energy to gain more. Right? Or you use the same amount of energy and get 100 or 1,000 times more than what you did before. Which means what? If I took it in terms of money, your mentality and skills allows you to use time better, right? Example is someone has the mentality to work hard to try to make more money. Then with that mentality, they're gaining more and more skills. And then when they gain the skills, they have this empire that when they don't have to work that much, but they're constantly gaining passive income, which means now they have more time to do the important things. Like for us in Providence, imagine if you've worked your way with that mentality and skill to build an empire of passive income. And in the end, you can spend all that time in church, giving money to the church, taking members out, teaching, lecturing, helping out in multiple different ways, right? In the end, everything's leading towards time. It's of the three things, it is the one thing you can never gain more of. It is absolutely limited, and we all have a limited amount of it. Everything else can be gained. If basically we all live forever, then mentality and you can basically get everything that you want in this world. Everything that you want, because you're living forever. You'll be able to gain all the skills, get all the things. No matter what, you'll gain everything that you want, right? But the reason we can't, not everyone can get everything because everyone has limited amounts of time. And what do they use their time with? If they don't have the mentality, they can't make it through the difficult times. They're not going to learn. They're not going to gain any skill. And that's why they're always going to remain poor. They're always going to be unsuccessful. People who are strong in mentality but don't gain the skill is eventually they're going to give up. Eventually, because let me just tell you when I was talking to I was doing the leaders training for leaders in one of the churches here. I was telling them straight up is one of the biggest problems we have in Providence is that we are so focused only on mentality. Like we think that's the number one thing. And you can look at it in the poll. We all think mentality. No, mentality is leading towards skill, and skill is leading towards getting more time or using time more better. Right? The problem we have is we're so stuck on mentality that none of the leaders are gaining extra skills to do their leadership better, to lead, to head lead, to be an assistant leader, to be a department leader. We're not gaining skills to be better at our missions. Instead, we're just using the mentality to push through all the difficult times, and then we take a rest, and then we do the exact same thing, and we think to ourselves that we're like, oh, we're doing such a good job because we made it through the difficult times. But the reality is, how many leaders are actually spending their time to gain skill? Because that's the next step. The mentality is there to reach the next level to gain skill. And when you gain skill, you're able to use time better. You're able to counsel people better. You're able to preach better. You're able to prepare your messages faster, right? All these things are there. And the mentality, yes, it's the number one thing. It starts everything going, but everyone just stops at mentality. They don't think about skills and they don't think about time. And that's why our leadership remains at the same level. And whenever we get a new leader coming into our churches, it kind of always remains at the same level. Like we're happy, of course we have the anticipation. We're like, oh, we're so happy we got a new leader. Things are going to change. But in reality is we don't change, right? It was just leadership's always been the same way. And this is why my big thing for all the members out there is you have to deliberately spend time every day to gain more skill, because that leads to time. That's one of the big misconceptions of the Sunday message. Everyone's like, mentality. I have to have the mentality of Sunday team. Mentality. Oh, that's the key point is mentality. But in reality, what is the real key point? It's about time. It's time times half a time. It's all about God's time. Time is the key. Right? Which means now is the time, and that time is limited, and you need that mentality to make it through this time. You need that mentality to preach. You need that mentality to get all these people because the time is limited. The key about this week's message is not mentality, it's time. Time is the issue we're dealing with. 2023 comes around once ever. And these 365 days, which is now on day 6, which means what? We have 365 59 days left, right? Every day we'll never get back in 2023, and that time is running out, and we have to run it until the end. And that's why we need the mentality to follow this time, right? People are way too focused on mentality, meaning it's not meaning mentality is not important. Remember, all three, time, mentality, skill, and time are all important, but it's all leading towards time. Doing things at the right time. What's the point of scoring 10 goals if the whistle's already blown and the game's over? Those goals mean nothing, right? What's the point of like selling your stocks when the stock is already at zero, when you could have sold it just 10 minutes ago when it was at its peak? It's about time, right? The mentality, everything else is there. This gaining the skill is all there so that we can use time better and do better and more things for this history, right? Or for whatever we're doing in work and school and whatnot, right? What is the answer? It's time. You will never get more time back. And all the mentality and the skill is all leading towards this time is so limited, you need to do things at the right time and make sure you get all the things you need to get done before the time is over, right? So that's why this is like very, very interesting. And I was just trying to prove a point is everyone is so focused on mentality where time was only 8%, even skill was only 8%, but 81 to 85% is on mentality because in Providence, it almost feels like that's everything. And the answer is no. Mentality is a starting point and it leads to more skill, which leads to the better usage of time. That's the difference, right? So I'm sure you guys are going to comment on this one for sure. And yeah, we have to remember mentality helps you to overcome all the difficult times. And when we overcome the difficult times, we learn from them, we push forward, we learn, gain new skills, right? Which means now that you have the mentality, and I'm pretty sure everyone in Providence has a mentality because we've got so much education on it, deliberately make time to learn new skills. Read books on leadership. Read books on mentality. Read books on being successful. Read books on like financially successful people because what you're going to learn from there is mentality. And then you're going to learn from that mentality also about the different skills that they've gained from having that mentality of never giving up. And then from there, what are they doing? They are able to have as much time as they want, relaxing, going on vacation, spending time with family, helping other people to gain their financial freedom and stuff like that too, right? And that's the thing that we have to understand. We need to understand this, got to gain the skill so we don't get into that same situation as we did before. All right, so that was the answer to the poll for this week. We'll start a new poll starting every Mondays instead of doing it on Tuesdays, right? So this is the end of this week's poll, and then on Monday I'll do a brand new poll. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that, understood that issue that we're dealing with. Espresso Sky, new video. I did record it. It's on my New Year's Eve experience. I'm going to split that into 2 or 3 videos because there's a lot of realizations I got from that experience. I'm just going to do the first one for you guys. That's going to be the New Year's Eve experience. I'm hoping it comes out either Thursday or Friday. Oh, it's already Friday now. So I'm hoping it's either Friday morning or Saturday morning. One of the two when it comes to Asian time. Okay? So let's get into some music from member artists around the world on this relaxing Friday. We're going to start with some rap. I know that a lot of people have gotten... there's one cool thing there's one DM I got already on my Patreon is someone has already, I was telling everyone, hey, for this week's message, on your own, just go into the Patreon and start watching the videos. One person's already redone their time times half times lecture. And they're watching the Patreon and following it and making their lecture once again. So I'm glad that a lot of people are putting it into action now, watching the Patreon, doing it in their own time and making sure that they can build a better lecture series for themselves too. Okay, so let's get into the featured artist of the day on this relaxing Friday. We're going to start off with Man and Groom from the Paper Associates in Korea. I love this song. It's called Cold Summer, really cool, groovy rap song. And then after that, we have MC One Love from Australia. With the journey. It's his journey from being a Gentile Christian to Providence. But I do think he should make a second part to this because big congratulations out to Daniel Patterson over there in Australia. He has been blessed and he's getting married. So super congratulations. I wish I could be there for the wedding, but obviously, the situation doesn't allow me to, but big congratulations out there to MC One Love, Daniel Patterson. So we're going to play his song, The Journey. Last but not least, we have Renee live from Taiwan. She just had a baby a few months ago, and she recorded a song while having a baby, which I think is impressive and amazing. And this song is called Master of My Own.
기대되는 휴가 여름철만 다가오면 짜증나는 더위 끈적끈적한 여름엔 필요해 차가운 아이스크림 같은 한 여름밤의 꿈 빨리 안 먹으면 녹아서 끈적끈적해져 like hot summer with mosquito 뜨거운 여름만 다가오면 싫지만 괜스레 두근대는 이 기분은 뭘까 요즘 비가 오면 듣는 빗소리가 좋아 요즘 짝을 찾는 매미 소리도 좋아 시끄러운 매미 소리 밑에 가려진 매미들의 숨가쁜 사랑 노래 괜스레 얼굴이 빨개져 뜨거운 태양처럼 이젠 기대돼 다가올 여름이
여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요 여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요
흔적만 끝에 조금 처해지는 핫서머데이 떠나볼까 젊은 날에 좋은 자리 있으면 좀 잡아도 꽉 막힌 도로여도 오늘은 기분이 설레네 계획은 딱히 없고 몇 시간 달린 후에 바닷가에 시원하게 발부터 담가 붙잡고 파도를 삼켜 또 모래성을 쌓아 석양 아래 바다와 모래알이 너무 예쁜걸 늦새 떠윈 잊었고 굳이 여자 없이 우리끼리도 즐겁네 그래도 저기 걸어오는 너희는 너무나 예쁜 거 아쉬움 뒤로 한 채 우리 내년에 기약하자고
여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요 여름밤은 너무 더워 우릴 살려줘 열대야가 우릴 삼켜서 we will go 집에서 에어컨은 냉방병 걸려 갈 사람 저요 갈 사람 너요
Poverty and anguish, that's an ill diet. You don't wanna try it. In the world so cold, got my heart in a vice hole. Pavlov's work is my heart defibrillation. Let me spell it out for you. Too great for abbreviation. Struggling, no peace, can't even sleep. Stress creeping in, stuck in the clay and mire. Hanging by the wire, tormented by the liar. Need an escape, don't wait. Holy Spirit can relate. Only one who can pull you through. Life's a test, but we blessed. Every day's a blessing, I'm not finessing. As long as you're still breathing, there's hope to change, rearrange a new mentality. The word of truth based in reality. Call out to God, the higher power, no Jack Bauer. Making life so sweet when it is sour. Saving in the 11th hour. Life's energy was diminished, I felt like I was finished. Battery on empty, Satan trying to tempt me to get reckless with my ways. Let the truth resonate, don't hesitate. Better things await you, keep moving forward toward that breakthrough. Through the fire tribulation, new transformation. Be all you can be, find strength in the Trinity. Holy Trinity holds you down, picks me up off the ground. I was lost when I met him, I was found. Word up, word up. I was blind but now I see, I was living without hope. At the end of my rope, the sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history, purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see, I was living without hope. At the end of my rope, the sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history, purpose ain't a mystery. My state was incomplete, had to bow down at his feet. Seen some dark nights out there on some cold streets. Satan never defeats me where the word and truth are complete. See, it completes me. God, Holy Son, Holy Spirit, complete. Three, completely united with the triune, enlighten my path. Walk step by step, hand in hand with the Lord. Can't afford to go back, nothing remains. Friends committing suicide, people making bad choices. God hears the broken people's voices. ride for the Lord. Messiah, Messiah, riding on the eagle's wings, flying higher, higher. You'll be caught up, raptured. My heart is captured, my spirit has raptured. Used to carry a knife for protection until I met the Lord's affection. Resurrection, crossed from a place of death to new life introspection. Asking what's life's purpose made me nervous, no longer feel dead. I'm in love with the one holding the key to life everlasting. Hear it in your speakers blasting. I'm gonna get back what Satan stole from me. Do righteousness and hard work. Sick condition. Facing my fears, Trinity hears my petition. Taking action on the word, promises coming to fruition. Rising up to a higher level. You can hear it in the bass, you can hear it in the treble. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery. I was blind but now I see. I was living without hope at the end of my rope. The sound is so dope. I met the Lord's history. Purpose ain't a mystery.
有没有一个语言能够预言我们遇见？也许是一个画面，我们都走在时间面前，拒绝被定义、被偏见、被贴上标签，成为最好的自己，才和最好的你遇见。Every time I ever loved， 无论你有多么不舍，到了时候就要告别。Fallen leaves fall in love， 看着落叶，听着风，说什么颜色都有光泽。不想被欺骗、被敷衍、被拿来消遣，冲破世俗的定律，再和朴素的心相连。Every time I ever loved， 生命里小小的锁的，都伴随着大大锁着。Fallen leaves fall in love， 没有所谓完美结局，勇敢做出你的选择。
And that was Renee Lai from Taiwan with the song Master of My Own. Before that was MC One Love from Australia with The Journey. And of course, feature artist today, that's Man and Groom from PMA in Korea with Cold Summer. All right, so now that we've gotten all that member music done with, let's get into some current news going on around the world. And of course, as brides of this history, we have the responsibility to pray for this world. But in order to pray for the world, we need to know what's going on. So what is happening over there around the world when it comes to Amazon? So Amazon is to shed over 18,000 jobs as it cuts costs, the CEO says. Amazon aims to shed more than 18,000 roles as it cuts costs, the technology giant's boss says. Affected workers will be informed from January 18th. Excuse me. And this is from the chief executive, Andy Jassy, said in a note to staff. The cuts amount to around 6% of the firm's roughly 300,000 strong corporate workforce. In November, Amazon said it was starting a round of layoffs, but did not give a figure of how many jobs it would cut. Mr. Jassy did not specify where affected employees were located, but he said the firm would communicate with organizations that represent employees where applicable in Europe. He also said the majority of role eliminations would be in the Amazon stores operations and its people experience and technology team. 2 months ago, the firm said it would focus on reducing expenses in its annual review of business operations. Amazon had already introduced a hiring freeze and halted some of its warehouse expansions, warning it had overhired during the pandemic. And it has also taken steps to shut down some parts of its business, canceling projects such as a personal delivery robot. So that's kind of what the world is turning into right now, with this kind of a third of the world going into recession, and there's tons of inflation going on right now. So like even Amazon, 18,000 jobs are going to be cut. 6% of their workforce. In second news, we'll go to China as the WHO warns about underrepresenting COVID deaths. The WHO has warned that China is underrepresenting the true impact of COVID in the country, in particular deaths. The removal of most restrictions last month has led to a surge in cases, but China has stopped publishing daily cases data and has announced only 22 COVID deaths since December using its own strict criteria. And the WHO emergencies director said, we believe that definition of a COVID death is too narrow. And they said China's figures are underrepresenting the true impact of the disease in terms of hospital admissions, in terms of ICU admissions, and particularly in terms of deaths. And if you guys look at the news all around, you're going to see pictures of what China's hospitals are looking like right now. It's so packed. There's like people lying on the floor, and there's like beds just in the hallways too. So it's pretty intense. I saw this one video of a doctor in China just collapses in the middle. He just collapsed. He's so exhausted. China last month changed its criteria for what constitutes a COVID death, meaning only those who die of respiratory illnesses are counted. And this goes against the WHO guidance, which encourages countries to count the number of excess deaths, how many more people died than would normally be expected based on death figures before the pandemic hit. And the doctors added that China had increased its engagement with the WHO in recent weeks and said he looked forward to receiving more comprehensive data. But he also suggested individual health workers could report their own data and experiences. And the UK science data company Airfinity estimates more than 2 million COVID cases a day in China and 14,700 deaths per day. That's what the estimate is right now. But so far, since December, they've only recorded 22. So since China abandoned key parts of its zero COVID strategy almost a month ago, there have been reports of hospitals and crematoriums being overwhelmed. Right? Think about that. Not just hospitals. Crematoriums are so busy cremating people. Like that's how overwhelming it is. And this is kind of what the same thing, I reported about this when the pandemic first started, like almost 3 years ago. I talked about that is some of the crematoriums were at that beginning point of the pandemic. Some of the crematoriums were so busy in China. Like they were talking about this one region had 7 crematoriums, and each of them were pumping out something like 50 people per day. 7 of them, which means that's like 350 deaths per day. And that's not even doing all of it. The bodies just kept coming in more and more and more. So this is why more than a dozen nations have introduced travel restrictions on travelers from China, and Beijing has criticized these as politically motivated and threatened to retaliate. But on Wednesday, the European Union issued new guidance strongly recommending that all member states introduce a requirement that passengers flying from China provide a negative COVID test before their departure. No new COVID variants have been detected in China despite the surge in cases. However, the WHO has warned this could be due to a decrease in testing. So the Chinese authorities have announced they are sending medical supplies to rural hospitals before an expected wave of coronavirus infections in the countryside. Well, one of the big problems is you have Chinese New Year coming up in 2 weeks. And when Chinese New Year comes, everyone's traveling, and that's when they say the next wave is going to happen. So, there's a huge warning. China's going to see another wave of infections as families gather for Chinese Lunar New Year in a few weeks, one of the country's busiest travel periods. So let's see what happens there too. Last but not least, we'll go into Russia and the Ukraine. And Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, puts warships armed with hypersonic missiles on combat duty. The Admiral Gorshkov frigate will sail to the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, Moscow says. Russian President Vladimir Putin has deployed a frigate armed with hypersonic cruise missiles towards the Atlantic and Indian Oceans in a show of military force as the war in Ukraine grinds on. Putin took part in a ceremony via video conference on Wednesday to mark the launch of the Admiral Gorshkov warship. Sergei Shoigu, Russia's defense minister, and Igor Krokhmal, the frigate's commander, were also involved. The ship is equipped with the latest hypersonic missile systems called the Zircon, which has no analogs. So Putin said before ordering it to begin combat service, he said, "I would like to wish the crew success in their service for the good of the motherland," he added. Shoigu said the frigate would sail to the Atlantic and Indian Oceans and Mediterranean Sea, and he added it was capable of delivering pinpoint and powerful strikes against the enemy at sea and on land. Saying the hypersonic missiles on board could overcome any missile defense system and had a range of more than 1,000 kilometers. So hypersonic weapons can travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound, and Russia has test launched the Zircon from warships and submarines this past year as the race to develop hypersonic weapons heats up with the United States and China. The main focus of the mission will be countering threats to Russia and supporting regional peace and stability together with the friendly countries, Shoigu added. In exercises, there will be training for the crew on deploying hypersonic weapons and long-range cruise missiles, and the high-profile tests have come despite Moscow suffering heavy losses of men and equipment in its near year-long invasion of Ukraine, which has seen relations between Russia and the West plummet. So, one thing you need to know about these hypersonic missiles, they're not the fastest. Right? So the main feature of the hypersonic weapons is not speed, because, the speeds of these missiles can be matched or exceeded by traditional ballistic missile warheads, right? But the biggest advantage they have is maneuverability. So the weapons are seen as a way to gain an edge over any adversary, as they can potentially evade missile shields and early warning systems. So these air defenses are going to have a hard time shooting them down, because the maneuverability of these are so fast that they come to shoot these missiles down, but it'll completely evade it and move out of the way, not get hit and then hit its target. So that's why these are supposed to be quite amazing weaponry, right? That, like they said, China, the US, and Russia are working on. So there it is, guys. That is the top 3 news around the world. Hope it's something that you guys all gain something from. I hope it's something that we can all pray about too. Let's just hope that these missiles don't get launched, right? Because we don't want to see any more of this pain and suffering. And even if it costs Ukraine, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's it worth, right? What is it worth? And that's something we need to pray and allow God to take care of, all right? So since that's the world news taken care of, let's get into some sporting news. What's happening around the world in sports? Well, in soccer, Lionel Messi returns to PSG after the World Cup triumph, seeking the one trophy he's tried and failed to win. So there is one trophy that he has not won yet. One major senior trophy, right? So he's got the World Cup, he's got the Golden Ball, right? He's got everything. He's got the Copa America, he's got the Champions League, multiple league and cup titles, Olympic gold medal. So it almost feels like there's nothing left for him to conquer as he readies himself to return to action. He's already a 7-time winner of the Ballon d'Or on an individual level. He's racked up 40 major honors in his career for club and country thus far, but there's still one trophy that remains, right? And this sounds incredible that he hasn't done it yet, but it's the Coupe de France, right? The 35-year-old's one appearance in the French Cup, a penalty shootout lost in last season's round of 16 to Nice, who lost the final to Nantes, means it is the only senior competition he has contested without eventually going on to win. So I think that's his last goal, to win every major trophy that he could. In 2023, there's going to be some free transfers coming in around the portal. And of course, the English Premier League itself still broke its spending record in the summer, spent $2.2 billion over the summer, right? But who's going to be free transfers? Well, the biggest one I think is going to be Karim Benzema from Real Madrid and N'Golo Kante from Chelsea. They're free transfers, so they're going to get a lot of clubs are going to be looking into them. Also, Adrian Rabiot from Juventus, He's French national team. He had a great World Cup too. A lot of people are going to be wanting him. Memphis Depay from Barcelona and David De Gea, the goalkeeper from Man U. So there's going to be a lot of action happening this summer for top free transfers, right? In the NFL, back to Damar Hamlin, showing signs of improvement. Buffalo Bills says their safety Damar Hamlin remains hospitalized in critical condition, but showed signs of improvement that were observed Tuesday and overnight into Wednesday, according to the team. They said that now the ventilator, right, that puts oxygen into him, is being used at 50% now. So he's using 50% of his lungs at the moment. So hopefully that works out too. And he's expected to remain under intensive care as his healthcare team continues to monitor and treat him. And, he has, I was talking about this before, how much support there is for him. And support is an understatement. He has a charity called the Chasing M's Foundation Toy Drive. And it's a GoFundMe. And so far, now it's up to $6.4 million. It was at $2,900 before his injury. And after all the support's coming in, it's up to $6.4 million. And we have like NFL players and the NFL community are participating and donating. I know Tom Brady put in $10,000. Robert Kraft also did the same. Los Angeles quarterback Matthew Stafford are a few to name. Celebrities and other members of the National Football League that are all donating to his charity. So that's, they're trying to do their best to support in any other way. And, of course, the best way is to pray for Damar Hamlin, right? Last but not least, is probably the most exciting for me. It's the World Juniors Ice Hockey. The semifinals have finished. Czech Republic defeats Sweden 2-1. So the Czech Republic is going to the finals. Who are they playing? It's either Canada, U.S. Canada plays the U.S. and Canada defeats the U.S. 6-2. So I'm super happy about this. So it is a Canada-Czech Republic finals. Super happy about this. Sweden, U.S. in the third place game. Scoring leader still Connor Bedard from Canada, 23 points. Still 11 points ahead of the second place, which is Cooley Logan at 12 points. So I can't wait. That game's going to be played in Asia. It's going to be played on Friday morning. So somewhere around this time when this podcast comes out. So I'm excited for that too. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the top 3 news around the world, and of course, top 3 news in sports. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. But you know what that means. It is the golden time. Yes, this is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope all of you guys are looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So, what are we going to praise and worship today? We're going to start off with We Are Confident. Yes, in this new year, we're going to make 2023 happen and fulfill everything until the end. And then we're going to sing Go Higher and Higher, and we'll end things off with Forgiveness and Love. So, as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Confident, unshaken. We are proud, unwavering. Confident now. We are so proud. Hey, have you caught a vibe by now?
Our clock is ticking, the hands of our clock keep on moving, they never stop. 'Cause we are following the timing of God who is mighty, we don't stop.
I will do the work I must do. I'm the key to the outcome that I want.
With the truth of the times we run diligently, we're making history. I trust in the power that God's given me. I make myself better every day. Since God is with us, supporting us always, we can never lose while we are on this path. No matter what comes our way, whatever may happen now.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now? So what?
Confident, we're confident, yeah, doesn't matter what may come.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident, we're confident, yeah, come what may, we'll stand as
We
one.
are proud, unwavering.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident now.
We are proud, unwavering.
We are so proud.
Confident, we're confident, yeah.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now? So what?
No matter what happens
spins, we'll turn tables and we'll climb. Grab the time, fix our minds, fix our contradiction, we will shine. We'll shake it up just like a sneeze. Say God bless you. If there's obstacles to block our way, we'll step right over. Ha ha. Gain momentum, don't tremble. Moving forward, just one more step, and now we're going forward. We're following the time, we follow God how we come together, we're stronger. And like heaven, I am established, firm and shaken. And just like the sun, the will of God is never stopping. Like a backpack, God has my back. He's with me, so I'm safe. I'm so confident. I have dignity, whatever it may be. I'm ready to face with energy, battery charged up. I'm set up with the Lord. I'm confident. We're winning. Game set.
God is with us, supporting us always. We can never lose while we are on this path. No matter what comes our way, whatever may happen now.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now?
So what?
Confident, we're confident, yeah. Doesn't matter what may come.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident, we're confident, yeah. Come with me, we'll stand as one.
We are proud, unwavering.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident, now.
We are proud, unwavering.
We are so proud.
Confident, we're confident, yeah.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now?
So what?
Confident, we're confident, yeah. Doesn't matter what may come.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident, we're confident, yeah. Come with me, we'll stand as
We
one.
are proud, unwavering.
Confident, unshaken.
Confident, now.
We are proud, unwavering.
We are so proud.
Confident, we're confident, yeah.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now?
So what? Yeah, yeah, huh. Since God is with us, we are confident, unshaken. Yeah, yeah, huh. The Holy Spirit is with us, we are proud, unwavering. Since God is with us, we are confident, unshaken. The Holy Spirit is with us, we are proud, unwavering. Since we live by God, we'll do it confidently. Confidently, do it confidently.
Hey, have you caught a vibe by now?
So what?
Look at you. You are dazzling, led by the Holy Spirit. You are changing in the best way. Look at me. I'm dazzling, led by the word of truth. I know my destiny is changing. Go higher and higher while throwing out my thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. We are transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming, awesomely, go higher. Na 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 na.
Yeah. Look at you, look at me. Everyone is shining. That's the walls that block you and me. With the Lord, we'll break right through them. When we can do no more, the secret is do one more. There are no limits here. We're not with no limit. Don't stop and just keep going. You changed a lot, so gotta keep growing. Started from the bottom, now we're going to the highest. The Lord, He takes me to the Trinity.
Rise up on the rest, go high. Changing for the best,
Go high,
rise up on the rest,
go high,
changing for the best,
go high,
rise up on the rest,
go high,
changing for the best,
go high,
rise up on the rest,
go high,
transforming awesomely,
go high.
go higher and higher while throwing out my thoughts. Go higher and higher, taking action on His will. Go higher and higher, beyond the limit. That's how I can really truly love myself in the best way. We have transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming awesomely.
Go high.
We have transformed. We are awesome for sure. Let's climb the highest heights, go higher and higher.
Don't stop and just keep going.
Transforming awesomely.
Go high,
Rise above the rest,
go high,
changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest,
go high,
changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest,
go high,
changing for the best.
go high,
Rise above the rest,
go high.
transforming awesomely, go higher.
side. Take me as your own. If alone I wander, death will carry me away. My heart, it burns anxiously. Won't you, Lord, wash my sins away? Lord, if you make me clean. I'll live my life only for you, my Lord. I will give my life to you. I'll live by your word alone, loving you, Lord. I will fulfill rapture through love, and for all time I will live always by your side. I'll live my life only for you, my Lord. I will give my life to you. I'll live by your word alone, loving you, Lord. I will fulfill rapture through love, and for all time I will live always by your side. I'll live my life only for you, my Lord. I will give my life to you. I'll live by your word alone, loving you, Lord. I will fulfill rapture through love, and for all time I will live always by your side, and for all time I will live always by your side.
And that was Forgiveness and Love. Before that, Go Higher and Higher, and We Are Confident. So now that our hearts and our minds are made ready through the time of praise and worship, let's get into today's word study. And I had such an amazing, that Wednesday message was so great. I said at the very beginning, there were two messages that were given. And the first one, eventually there was a message from, IMD saying that just preach the second one instead. So I think most people didn't hear the first one, but I heard the first one mainly because the translation in English wasn't finished. So I'm at the English church here in Malaysia, and they're far ahead of everyone else in like the Western countries, and the translators in the Western countries, so they get, getting the transcripts, they get it at different times, and they weren't able to actually finish the second message. So I heard that in Thursday pre-dawn, and Wednesday night I heard the first one. And I think the first one is the one most of you guys haven't heard, right? It's of course, it's a year of missionizing and reaching until the end. But yeah, it was really, really powerful for me. Like I was so inspired to preach. Like this is a time to preach, right? So one of the things that one of the main points at the very beginning was when the set time comes, then the time times half time is fulfilled. But the time times and half time is fulfilled in two levels. It's the miniaturization and the magnified scale, right? So we know that it has to happen at two different levels. So if we think too big, then we're only thinking at the level of, oh, the entire history, the will of God, something big has to happen. But what Sansim was saying was, no, there's also a miniaturized fulfillment that has to happen at the end of the time times and half a times. So the one thing we do know about time times half a time is not just the period of suffering, but it's the period of preparing for the fulfilling promise, right? And both of these are being fulfilled. So yes, people are suffering. Yes, it is a time of suffering. There's a lot of things that went wrong and we're suffering for what we did, or the sins of the country, the nation, or the sins of the ancestors, whatever it is, right? The generational sin. But on top of that, the people who are righteous are the ones still running and making history. And I think that's one of the things that we have to think about, and it made me think about during this message is, just because it's a tribulation time or it's a time times half a times, the righteous aren't the ones resting. The righteous are the ones still going out. When Elijah went through the 3.5 years of no rain, he was still preaching. He was still giving the message, healing people, counseling them. And this is when we learned about, when after the story of Elijah and the raven's food, he went to the widow of Zarephath and he told her straight up that, guess what? There's going to be that flour and oil, those jars, the jug of oil and the jar of flour will never run dry. And this is what he was receiving as he's going out and helping people, right? So this is something that we have to understand. We need to fulfill something right now at the miniaturized level, and that's when we expect the bigger level to actually happen. I think that's what makes us a little bit lazy when it comes to running for this history, because, Sansim's here, so he's going to take care of all these other different things, right? So, we in the message, like that was one of the powerful beginning points of the message. But one of the things that was said during this message was, time times and half a time is a period of suffering, but also a time for preparation. But here's the key thing that I thought was really powerful. He says, after the time times and half a time is done, there will be a long period of good days. A long period of good days will come. And that is so encouraging, especially for me doing stocks and crypto and stuff like that. I watch, the overall news, right? And it's like, when you look at the bear market and the bull market, the bull market, if you combine it over the last 100 some odd years, it's been 75 years of the bull market, and the bear market's been something like 20. Right? So that time of running and getting blessed is so much longer than that short time of tribulation. So remember, after the time times half times, after what's going to happen right now, we got to prepare it fully so that the long period of good days will come. It's going to happen right after. Once the time times half time is done, that thing just encouraged me so much. A long period of good days will come. So I was just like, amen. That is something that I'm looking forward to. And this is something I was like, wow, I can't wait for this to happen. Let's make sure we do the miniaturized fulfillment of the time times and half a times, right? So that's something that I was like, that's something I really, I'm really looking forward to. Now, one of the things that Sansim said is, in order for us to understand the Shimjang, we need to understand what Sansim went through. And Sansim went into a lot more detail in this first message. And like I said, most of you haven't heard it, but that first message, he said that, of course, we know that he stayed in Mount Samgak, which I think it means like triangle, but he stayed in he preached the gospel, stayed in the mountains, he healed people, then he started a church. And then we know the story of one member giving him like $350, $400 so he can buy his house from his mom. And then from then on, he started buying more and more land to establish Wonmyeongdong, right? And Sansim said from that point on, it was all evangelism, right? And he said, this is why you have to understand how much evangelism can solve all your problems, right? The problem that we have is what? We can say that evangelism solves all problems, but just because you evangelize one or two people doesn't mean you're going to solve all problems. You're just going to solve some problems. Right? When you evangelize a lot of people, then these people are coming from different backgrounds, different specialties, different skills, and they're going to help in multiple different parts. But if you only evangelize 2 to 3 people a year, you're only going to get that much help from those 2-3 people and what they're very good at. And especially if a lot of them are campus, you're not going to get the specialized skills. You're going to get the people with passion and power, right? So when you look at how Sansim, when Sansim pioneered all of Seoul on a great scale, what happened? He had a few people that believed, but they all left because of tribulation. And with the very few he had left, him and the new people who's evangelizing, they pioneered a church again in Samsungyo, right? So we heard of this church also. Then the church went to 50, 150, 500, 1,000, then all the way up to 1,500 people, which is the same size basically of the churches we see now in Korea. So Sunsim did it by himself. And then from there, the churches start to spread all over the country. So here's a big thing. And this is one of the things I think that a lot of us will misunderstand. Sunsim asked the question is, do you think it was easier to evangelize back then than it is now? And Sunsim said it wasn't. Back then, at his time, when he was growing the churches, the Korean government was cracking down and arresting people when too many people gathered together, especially young people, right? Why? Because at that time, one thing you'll know about the history of Korea is they're very, very good at protests. And when you go to Korea, you're going to see protests happen all the time, right? Very, very vigilant, very powerful at protests. That's why when you saw what happened in what's that place called again? The place where they had the crush, where Itaewon, we had that crush. Yeah, you had hundreds, like tens of thousands coming out to protest, all the parents coming out, right? So this is why the government was cracking down on this, and Sunsim said they had to hide their gatherings. They had people at the door guarding the services, right? So, to make sure that no one was going to, this was 1983, right? So now, it wasn't that easy. It was hard doing this. And now these churches have become big churches. And then later on, he pioneered through international students from 1985, going out to like Japan and the US and Taiwan, all these other different countries. And then he started personally pioneering 14 years later in 1999. And this is how the gospel was preached and missionized. This is what he has done until it's become the province history it is today, right? There was so much detail he was talking about. Like the message was like, this is what I've done. This is what we did from the very beginning, right? So you got to think about this. Sunsim was, when did Sunsim learn times, half times? He was 23 years old at that time. And he says, when he was 23, so think about what you were doing at 23. He memorized the entire Bible, interpreted the book of Revelations and scriptures about time. Everything about time he interpreted, right? So this is why he can tell us in detail today, right? And that's why he says, everyone, you need to know how history of this time period began. You got to know the fundamentals. You need to know how Jesus began history of this time period, not just 2,000 years, but this time period too. Know how God's will is going to be fulfilled. Right? And that's something that we have to understand for right now of 2023, which is going to be the repeating of 1978. It's a repeating of it, guys, for the next 45 years. Somebody said it's going to be 45 more years. So it's like 45 years from 1978 to 2023. When that ends, there's going to be another 45 years, which combines to 90 years. I'm not sure what the significance of 90 years is, but he says there's going to be another 45 years. I'm not sure if that means Sunsim's still going to be living this entire time. For the next 45 years, which would make him what? 120 years old. Because he's 78 this year, which means 45 years would be 110. Whoa, that's a lot. Right? That'd be like 100 and how many years? 118 years. So I'm not sure if he'll be alive the entire 45 years, but he says it's going to be another 45 years. And it's us. It's us. We have to be the ones that endure the 2023, keep the faith, and we're going to be the ones that are going to be blessed. Keep the faith. Keep the love you promised to God. Take action. Reach that day, right? And it doesn't matter if you go through continuous injustice, because you know what? He's technically talking about himself. He's talking about himself, right? Because who's the one going through continuous injustice? It's not us. So he says, even if you go through continuous injustice, which means it's me, that's my situation, persevere until the end. Persevere until the end. Reach history. Reach the history that God has planned for all of us until 2023. Keep the faith, no matter how difficult it gets. And if you keep the faith until the end, you're going to win, right? And one thing, this is what God said. This is God's word. This is what God actually said. It says, if you fail to do it until the end, you will regret forever. Forever, right? So that's for me, I'm just like, wow, this is a powerful message. And that's why I was like going, wow, I wonder why they didn't preach this one. This one was so good, right? It says we have to preach the gospel just like Sunsim did. And you see what he did in those 20 years, which means look at what we can do, that each person can evangelize a church to up to 1,500 people with the gospel. Lives were flooding in, right? So just like 1978, 2023 is going to fulfill a magnificent history. So that's why you need to know how Sunsim preached the gospel from 1978. You need to receive that shimjung and take action with that shimjung. This is a year, everyone. Sunseem said, start anew, preach the gospel to all the world, and fulfill the history of life, and bring people into the domain of death to the domain of life. Free those bound in the domain of death. That's what we got to do right now. From 1978 until now, it's been 44 years. We're in the 45th year, right? When we reach the fullness of 2023, it'll be 45 years. If everyone takes actions and we add another 45 years, it can be 90 years. I'm not sure what that means, but there's something for the next 45 years we're looking forward to. Going forward, everyone should take action with the same Shimjung as Sunseem, and then we'll go beyond worldwide scale, beyond our imagination. And this is why we've got to preach. This is why we need to shine in our body and our spirit. This is why we have to preach the word and make lives come from the domain of life to the domain of death to the domain of life. Who's God going to use? God needs to use the body that's going out to make history, to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth. Everyone living in this history, you know the gospel of this time period, right? We should know it the best more than anyone else. But think of the Roman persecution. He brought it up again. He said, Roman persecution, thousands and thousands were killed and martyred. But regardless of it, preached and made history. Regardless. The Holy Trinity is going to work with us, and that's why it's going to work out. We've got to preach. Right? Everyone is going to be used according to God's will. And think about all the people that believe in Jesus. 3.5 billion people believe in Jesus. And that was like the second message you guys heard is, who's going to oppose? Jesus is going to be with us. Preach about Jesus. Don't just try to reveal Sunseem. That's not the point. It's just to reveal him. We want people to realize him. But they need to understand Jesus first before anything else. Jesus is working with us. Jesus is on our side. Preach about Jesus, how Jesus taught Sunseem. And that's going to be the key, that Jesus is using Sunseem, right? A lot of times we're just trying to get to the end, right? It's like when Sunseem said, it's more beautiful for a girl to be in a bikini than to just show everything, right? You have to be mysterious, right? And it's more attractive. We have to be the people of mission. Right? We have to be the ones that preach the gospel. We have to be the ones that Daniel spoke of when he prophesied. And that's why we can't spend this time slandering each other. We can't spend this time fighting against those that opposed us. We were born in the greatest time ever. And yes, the greatest time of the rapture is done. At 2015, we're all there. Like a lot of us were there. But now we're at the second greatest time. We have this time to take. Looking back at the rapture, what good is it right now? It's already past. We have to look at right now. What is happening right now? We are born at the best time. This is the time that God has planned. And this is a time for us to take action and become owners of this time period. We got to realize that this is something that once we see this start to come into fruition, it's not just Providence that's going to grow. It's the whole world, your nation. All these things are going to grow. They're going to be renewed, become independent. We're going to see so much growth in every aspect. Providence must fulfill the will and then spread to many nations. And this resurrection history will start 2023. That's us, guys. This is it. It's about the mentality and that Shimjung first so that we can do these things. All this time that we've had until 2023, we have to learn from it, not just take like the thing I talked about at the very beginning. It's not just mentality. Mentality only gets you through it, but eventually what's going to happen is you give up if there's no fruit, right? That's what usually happens to us. You evangelize for 7 years, not a single person has been evangelized. You give up and you say evangelizing, it doesn't work, right? It's because you just evangelized with mentality and you never gained any skills. And since you didn't gain any skills, you're just doing the same thing over and over again and you don't end up evangelizing anyone. We have to realize right now, the best time is, we have to have that understand that Shimjung. Know how Sunseem did it from 1978. Because if we don't do anything, this time is going to pass by. And one thing I thought was very scary, it says, the domain is going to change to another one, right? And it's going to be another one that you cannot see or hear. It's a spiritual thing. You can't even take action on it. But if you don't act, that time's going to pass by. You have to be so passionate right now that you are caught up with the righteousness, that you have that mentality to do things to the end no matter what happens in your life. Make yourself, right? He says, just like a poem, make the draft, then polish it and make it, then it becomes a complete poem. And then after you do even more, polish more, make it more, develop it more, it becomes a masterpiece. And he says, you must do the same thing with your life. become a masterpiece. Start with the draft, polish and develop, becomes a complete poem, polish, develop, make, and then it becomes a masterpiece. And the only way it's going to work is that you need to know the words even more than you did before. That's what I'm saying, guys. Go over it again. Don't just be happy with realizing from the message, because when the first time you listen to the word, you're only going to retain 10%. And if you go over it again and again and again and write things down, you'll gain only about 35% of the word. You have to take it in, realize it, write it down, teach it, and then you're going to start gaining 90% will be retained inside your mind. Don't be afraid of the waves, or you don't eat. People afraid of the waves will not catch fish at sea. People afraid of the world, you cannot evangelize and save lives. We have to get better. We can't be afraid. The moment you become conscious of people, you can't do what God commands us to do. If you are conscious and afraid of tribulations and difficulties, you cannot pursue the will of God. If we become afraid of the world, how we follow history? After all the things God has given to us, how can we follow history and this great will? So one thing I thought was a great parable. Sometimes like, when you evangelize, like this is gold. I can't, for me, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe most people are not hearing this part, this message. Somebody said, that there's a lot of mushrooms in the world, but not all of them are poisonous. Just like people, not every person is wicked. But just like mushrooms, you need to discern before eating, is it poisonous or is it edible? People too, discern wisely, treat them accordingly, right? Remember, treat people accordingly. Wicked and the righteous. Do not be too afraid of difficulties. Do it together with the Holy Trinity and Jesus, and you can do it, right? This is what we need to do. And I really, really hope, like this was the first message. So when you listen to this, guys, you're like going, why didn't we hear this message? I was so inspired to just go preach. Like, I got to prepare myself. And I thought to myself what am I afraid of? Right? What am I really afraid of? Like, with my YouTube channel, I'm not even doing it personally. I'm just like going to put it, I'm like going, you know what? I should just put the 30 lessons on there. Like at least like a couple of the big ones. Put the big ones up there and just let them listen to it. I was thinking, maybe I should just do that instead. And I think that's something we need to realize even more is, this is the truth. This is something, should we be afraid of it? Nah, let's just go out in 2023. And guess what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So what? So what? Right? We have to know perfectly. We have to save lives, and we have to reach the end. Right? Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this, the message that all of us heard because we heard it. I just want to talk about the one that we didn't hear. So I don't know. Comment below, guys, if you heard both messages. But I think from the instruction, it was only the second one. And the one I went over with you today is the first message that Sunsteam sent. There were two messages, two different titles and everything else. But the instructions were to only preach the second one. But I heard both of them. I only said this one because I know that most people didn't hear the first one. Either way, that is the end of the word study for today on the Wednesday message, the first Wednesday message, the one that most people didn't hear. Hope you guys really enjoyed that and were inspired just as much as I was, okay? So there it is. That is the end of this, which means we're going to get into our GGG section. And I'm super excited about this because with the GGG, one thing I really, really enjoy about this is people are doing a lot of amazing, like giving glory to God. And Star just called me the other day and said, hey, I just finished a song today for GGG, and they want to submit it to share on Morning Star Drive. And it's inspired by one of the artwork trees in Wonwindong that Sunsteam discovered and cleaned up last year that is like us, and the Lord embracing it. So I hope that you guys are going to really, really enjoy this. It's a great song. It's called We're Connected. And this is Star from New Zealand, and this is her GGG for day 6.
See me held by you in a dream with a team that can never lose. I see me in your grooves. What a dream, silver stream down to the roots, and we're connected.
We're connected, you and me. I'm the apple upon your tree. And no matter what people say, we're a pair, night and day. If we're riding, I know you're right by me. And we're vibing like the sand on the sea. I was sure that you're the only one for me. Before I saw you forming in my dreams.
I once read a book, said there's no one without a mate. Thought I'd take another look and at it through the gate. When this world leaves me feeling down and dejected, you remind me we are connected. I see me held by you in a dream. We're the team that can never lose. I see me in your grooves. What a dream, silver stream down to the roots, and we're connected.
We're connected
When?
all the time. I cling while you sing that fruit upon thy vine. By the body, no, not just the soul, but by something more spiritual, more beautiful. If we're driving, I know you're guiding me. If we're dining, you're the sugar in my tea. In the garden, I'm yours, you are mine. Cover you with love and clothe me in divine.
I once read a book, said there's no one without a mate. Thought I'd take another look and at it through the gate. When this world leaves me feeling down and dejected, you remind me we are connected. I see me held by you in a dream. We're the team that can never lose. I see me in your grooves. What a dream, silver stream down to the roots, and we're connected. Wherever I go, my path is directed. Whatever life throws, I know I am protected. I once read a book, said there's no one without a mate. Thought I'd take another look and at it through the gate. When this world leaves me feeling down and dejected, you remind me we are connected. I see me
Held by you, held by you.
We're the team that can never lose.
Such a vibe song, man, honestly.
I see me in your grooves. What a dream, silver stream down to the roots, and we're connected.
And there it is, GGG for day 6 here on the Morning Star Drive. I hope you guys enjoyed. That was Jew Star from New Zealand. She just completed this song to give glory to God. Hope you guys enjoyed. That song is We're Connected. Go ahead, leave a comment below for all these amazing people submitting their songs and music for GGG. We do have other people preparing testimonies right now that they're going to be sending it to me this weekend. So if you have testimonies or poems that you want to share, go ahead and do that also. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the GGG song for day 6 on the Morning Star Drive. The next one will be on Monday, which is going to be day 6, 7, 8, day 9. It'll be day 9. So it'll be the last week. It'll be last week. I think it'll be the last week for it. All right. So let's get into the last section for today, not only for today, but for the entire week. And of course, we all look forward to this. It's Let's Testify with Tuli. I'm really excited because she just does an amazing job, and she has a lot of good and new ideas also. And today, she's going to be talking about steps to explaining the word well, and this is perfect for this week's message. So hope you guys enjoy this. Everyone, please welcome
From Down Under with the next episode of Let's Testify. A happy new year to all of your families, and your churches as well. This will actually be the last normal episode of Let's Testify. And what I mean is, next week there'll be one more episode, but that's so we've had a lot of people's testimonies and my own testimonies too about God's work in our lives. And this week I was trying to get an idea of what people struggle most with in their faith so that I could gear this episode to that topic. So I discussed with people in different churches, and I was asking, what is it most that people want to improve most on or develop most in? And it was kind of what I expected, which is people want to explain the word well. And that had been on my heart as well. And at the same time, in my personal study, when I just do my own research, I revisited the work of a Christian neuroscientist called Dr. Caroline Leaf, L-E-A-F, as in a tree leaf. And she's famous for kind of spearheading the early research in neuroplasticity around 35 years ago. It's a really fascinating story if you want to check it out for yourself. And she's what was most interesting for me is that she is heavily involved in education of children. So as a teacher, I found that most fascinating. And she can even teach children in the most adverse circumstances. For example, she taught a 16-year-old who sustained significant brain damage from a car accident. And usually in the past, people would write off people who had such significant brain damage. But so this girl was in year 12 when she had the accident, and she, before the accident, was at an IQ level of around 100. And after the accident, the IQ fell down to that of a grade 4 student, so someone who's around 9 years old. And with Dr. Leaf's specific teaching methods, she rose up again to an IQ level not of 100, but of 120. She finished her year 12 and went on to study at university after that. So this is just one out of multiple success stories that Dr. Leaf has had. So one area that Dr. Leaf teaches about is how to think in order to learn. So not just thinking, but thinking to improve memory, thinking to build memory. She spends 2 to 3 hours daily studying articles in her neuroscience field to keep abreast. And she stresses that nowadays what we need most in terms of knowledge is not knowledge access. We all have access to oceans of information. What we need now is knowledge management. She made this very interesting point, which is interesting for me as a teacher because there are so many kids with ADHD in the classroom or ADD. She said that constant quick scanning of knowledge, as we tend to do on the internet, leads to ADHD. ADHD comes from a mentality of wanting a quick fix, but she stresses that success, however, takes hard work. And she said that there's nothing sexy about learning in a way to build your memory. It's just hard work. But she's got a very particular method of the way that we can learn. So in terms of, how can we apply this to learning and building our memory of the word, which was stressed in this Sunday message? So we have access to oceans of messages, and we can feel overwhelmed at times with how much word there is, and we end up absorbing the overview in a superficial way, kind of in a way that we can develop ADHD with the word. What we need is skills in knowledge management, knowledge of the word management. How are we going to manage this information in a way that is useful and built into our memories, not just scanned and forgotten? All right, so especially now in this year of missionizing or ministry and the emphasis on learning the word of truth in a way that you can explain it, we truly for ourselves need to gain the conviction through understanding the gospel ourselves. So we were given the question, how well can you teach and preach to people according to their age, their level, their individuality? The word doesn't change, yet according to the person, we must explain the word wisely, right? So first of all, we need to understand the word thoroughly ourselves. And Dr. Leaf provides this series of 5 steps to deliberately build memory, which is applicable to memorizing the key points of the word each week and applicable to then teaching and preaching in this year of ministry. So I realized it's a very similar approach to the way that I currently organize the messages for myself. So I thought this could help members to develop this area of their faith life as well. Of course, you may have your own way of studying and arranging the messages, and discuss by looking at the information before you. Try to understand the message deeply. Now, as you do that process of reflecting, asking, answering, and discussing, you do point 3, which is you write. So scientifically, capturing concepts in writing is scientifically proven to benefit you. So make sure you write this down. As you read through asking, answering, and discussing, start writing down each concept as you understand it. So for each chunk of the message, each chunk of the word, you write it down. Write down the concept of it as you understand it. Point 4. So far we've done number 1, you input, you absorb the message, you read it. Number 2, you reflect on it, trying to understand it through in little chunks. Number 3, as you do that, you write it down. You write down the concept of each little chunk that you've come across. And number 4, you recheck, which is you check for accuracy of your notes that you've taken. So how can you recheck? For each concept that you write down, you can ask questions such as, have I understood this, or does it make sense? Does this point make sense that I've written down? Did I include enough in that point, or do I need to add some more stuff? Explaining it in a way that you would like to have learnt it first up. How would you like it to be explained to you in that nutshell? How would you like it done to you? So these 5 steps are a very effective and powerful solution to learning. They may not be very attractive, but they work. So let's, I'm going to try develop this skill more and more this year. And in the comments below, please let me know how you absorb the messages and how you commit the word to memory, or whether it's something that you really struggle with. And also, please tell me what you found helpful from this segment today. I'd love to know about that. So last of all, next week, I'm going to reveal my plans to wrap up Let's Testify and start with something completely new under the Morning Star Drive channel. So
to explain the word well, I think that's something that we all need. And sometimes, it's too general just to say explain the words well, but it's so much better when it's like, hey, these are the steps you can take to explain the words well. When someone says to pray, sometimes people don't know exactly how to pray, and they just need that step by step. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do for each other, is to share experiences and help each other to put the words of God into action, or do the things that we're supposed to do for the week. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the last section for this first week of 2023, and for the Morning Star Drive's first week in 2023. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Everyone, have an awesome time of giving glory to God over the weekend, and we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm